This is TWiT.
We have been sort of speculating about this for a while, but Microsoft finally put out a roadmap this past week where they discussed kind of the end, how Windows 10 winds down and also how Windows 11 kind of winds up, if you will, right? So the thing we had talked about was that Microsoft has never released an LTSC version of Windows 11. That's the long-term servicing channel version. Technically, LTSC is actually for kind of what Microsoft calls specialty devices, meaning PCs that maybe are in medical or in some location where they literally don't want to ever be updated. But I think a lot of enterprises just like to use LTSC, just like get a version on they don't have to update.
LTSC is an excuse to not migrate, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like, I'm not going to talk about I'm not going to concern myself with a product till I know I can stand it for an extended period of time. And I don't know why you went with like PCs, like it's ATMs you're talking about. That's although that's still XP, but a Windows 11 version of an ATM would be hilarious.
Well, yeah. So actually, I have to say I'm a little vague on some stuff with LTSC because there are, in some ways, three different versions. There are versions that are supported for 5 years. There are versions that are supported for 10 years. And then there are IoT versions, which I believe are also supported for 10 years. And I don't know if the ATM use case is IoT or just standard Windows 11.
No, it predates all of that, really.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, they're making this stuff as they go along. I think it's more, what will the customer tolerate? And they keep trying to make it a shorter amount of time. And there's a good case for that, right? Like these things do need to be updated. There are vulnerabilities, but nobody wants it.
There's an ongoing discussion that we've been having here that I have on my site that we're going to have here yet again today, which is about that so delicate balance between Microsoft wanting to update your computer all of the time and some people, and certainly most companies, wanting to never update their computer. And this is kind of we'll talk about this in a little while, but yes, I was a little worried. Well, worried is the wrong term. I was wondering what they were going to do about LTSC. Were they going to try to get rid of this for Windows 11? And so the answer is no.
I began to wonder if they were going to try this time and then decided not to.
Yeah. Well, they might just say, for Windows 11, it's 5 years. Right. And, we'll see. There are no details about it. We just know that it's going to arrive in the second half of 2024, meaning it will be 24 H2. I believe there were two LTSC versions of Windows 10 currently supported, 2019 and 2022, probably.
And the fact that you just said those words speaks volumes of what went wrong with the whole Windows 10 is the last version of Windows thing, right?
Yes.
You're referring to two versions of Windows 10.
Well, that's the irony / hypocrisy of Windows 10. We want to have as few versions of Windows supported in the market at one time, and we have created a situation where we have the most ever.
The most ever. Well, and at the same time, you also have that force of how do I shake up the dev team inside of Windows to get with these more fast moving practices that they just had never needed to do before.
Yep.
This is part of our lives of being affected by the politics inside of Microsoft showing up in this product that we all ultimately depend on.
That's right. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, we've talked about this before, but one of the big things that switched over the Windows 10 life cycle was this notion of pulling developer APIs out of Windows and making them just support all supported versions of Windows, right? This is the Windows App SDK stuff.
Well, and I think that was a revelation inside of Microsoft too, because up until then, you only put stuff into Windows. You never took it out.
Right. Right. But it was a byproduct of the Windows as a service thing that I think no one saw coming, or at least no one important enough to make a decision. And when that situation arrived that we just described, where they had more supported versions of Windows in the market than ever before, the bell went off and they kind of
you've done the opposite of what you intended to do, and you frustrated your customers. They frustrated more people than ever before. The devs were annoyed because they couldn't get the version they needed to run their apps. The IT people were annoyed because why are the devs wanting us to update the OS? The users are annoyed because I saw this feature on this guy's machine, but not on that guy's machine, right? And let's not even talk about the search pill. Like,
we are going to talk about the search bill. That's the next big topic. It's coming up again. You thought we were done.
We're going to let it go. But herein lies why do people avoid updating Windows? Because sometimes the Windows guys go off the rails and do trivial things with update instead of what they were supposed to do, which is keep our machines safe. So, I wonder why we're irritable.
Well, if you were irritated by the fact that your computer could not be upgraded to Windows 11, we have some good news for you because Microsoft is no longer going to ship updates to Windows 10. Windows 10 version 22H2 is going to be the version they ride out into the sunset, allegedly until October 2025. And what they promised is that we will, of course, deliver security updates every month, but we're not going to do any more feature updates. And I have to believe there is a huge part of the population out there, especially in the business side, that are saying, yeah, thank you. That's what we've been asking for the past 8 years.
Yes. So you're going to make Windows 10 correctly now? Hooray.
Yeah, right at the end. So I'm sure there are also some that went to Windows 11. They're saying, hold on one second. What are you doing?
Can I get
there?
what? I have what?
So the way the Microsoft blog post about this was kind of interesting. It's like, hey, you only have 2.5 years now before you have to switch over. You might want to start your migration hours. I think a lot of businesses are thinking, wait a minute, I could ride this out for 2.5 years.
Yeah, this is brilliant.
That sounds pretty good to me.
With a fairly good probability that you're going to extend the deadline anyway, because as you do with every popular version of Windows, because in the end, you guys may be, quote unquote, leading the parade, but mostly it's because you run in front of us and keep walking.
Right. Actually, you should turn around because the parade went left when you went right.
Yeah. And as they tend to do, right? I mean, you look at how long they extended 7, and 7 was good, but it ain't no 10. 10 is a very when you get over the madness of the versioning, 10's a very good version of Windows. And I see a lot of organizations going, yeah, we're not going anywhere. And you haven't impressed us with 11.
Right. Yeah. No, yeah, for sure. I mean, Microsoft, all these things are kind of help put the whole situation in perspective a little bit. You could also argue, well, Microsoft now has 2 years ish to get Windows 11 right. Not really. I mean, obviously, businesses that are going to make this migration need to get started on that at least a year ahead of time, depending on the size, et cetera. But this is them buying time.
A cynical man, and I don't know any in this room. A cynical man might say that most organizations will wait for Windows 12.
Yep. Right. Well, so that's the one thing they didn't discuss in this roadmap, right? So there's a lot of evidence that Windows 12 is coming. There's a lot of speculation about the timing to that, but I would imagine that 2024 is the time for that. 24H2, I guess. So we'll see. I mean, they waited until the last minute to announce Windows 11. I have to think they're not going to wait that long on Windows 12. But if this really is the AI edition of Windows, as we kind of think of it, I think it would behoove them to start talking about it a little early. I wouldn't wait until next summer.
Well, and just again, I'm thinking the internal politics of Microsoft. If you don't get out the door with a version of Windows with your large language model features in it, M365 owns this. They're already talking about Copilot.
Sure.
And the longer that goes, the less your thing's going to matter. So, and apparently the directive came from Satya: "Thou shalt make AI products in each of those stacks."
Oh yeah, yeah. This is in the same way that "Thou shalt make your product make sense in the cloud." Yeah, was the previous edict. I mean, yes, 100%. This is the goal move.
It's got to be soon, and I'm just taking a fly here, saying we're going to get an 18 to 24 month extension on retirement of 10, as we have with, again, popular versions of Windows. And even then, it'll be a $50 fee to stay in support for a year, the first year out.
Yep.
Boy, oh boy, you've given me all the reasons not to go to 11.
I wonder,
if we're going to make a jump, go to 12.
You have to think, I don't know what the timing is exactly, but let's say 1 year before the end of life, supposedly, of this product, they look at the numbers and say, we still have a lot of desktops sitting here on Windows 10 still. This roadmap that we just discussed is going to be the thing that makes that happen.
Yep.
It makes it much less of an important thing to move to Windows 11, knowing now that this thing is going to be stable.
Yeah.
The next 2.5 years, that doesn't make me want to leave. That makes me want to stay.
That makes me want to stay. And I've never been in the room for this. I don't know that it's even really true, but it's like, I can think of a half a dozen companies in this world that make a phone call to Microsoft and say, we're not going to be ready by 2025 and we need you guys to fix this.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, we'll see what they do. Microsoft can be curiously belligerent sometimes, but they did it for XP. They did it for 7.
No, they're like a female black bear. They'll charge you, but they always turn away at this last second.
Nice. That's something I hope to never experience.
Oh, it's a moment, I'll tell you.
I mean, I've been bullied by Microsoft on Twitter. I guess that's a little close to that.
The key is to make loud noises and make yourself bigger than Windows. And
you're totally right.
Yeah,
sure. And I find when the bear runs at you, not hard to make loud noises. You're highly motivated.
Yeah.
And whatever you do, don't run. Yeah.
No, don't run.
They can
lean
beat
into
you.
it.
Yeah.
Look, he wants to play.
That's got to be hard. I saw a video on TikTok the other day of a family and a bear just kind of lumbering up behind them. And the kid at one point, little kid says, "When do we get to play dead?" And I thought, okay.
That could be coming quicker than you want.
Yeah. Okay. This episode of Tech Break is brought to you by ACI Learning. The most tech-savvy people in the world serve in the military, and deciding how to transition to civilian life can be difficult. Before 2030, the Bureau of Labor Statistics reported IT will add over 667,000 positions. Choose a career to support your goals with ACI Learning. Visit go.acilearning.com/twit today.